Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to talk about a continuation of what we talked about yesterday. Dahlonega, Charlotte. We're going to take a little bit different bend, but we're going to talk about orders of merit, orders of change, give you a little bit more history, have a little bit more story time. But first, we have a question that was asked yesterday, and I want to go ahead and just start right off with this question. And it came from Azure. Unfortunately, I didn't see it before the stream ended. So, Eric, when they were talking about Charlotte and Dahlonega, he was asking, when you owned your coin shop, when you ran a coin shop, did you ever run across anybody that brought in any of the coins from gold coins, specifically Carson City, Charlotte, Dahlonega?
I did once. It would be year 2000, 2001. Uh, and I'm guessing it was an 1851 half eagle. It was like a pocket coin, a good luck charm or whatever. I'd say it was probably VF30. Uh, and I didn't get it. My coin business at that time, I did a lot of buying and selling silver and gold that was scrap type stuff or ounces. The outlet to sell that was a little bit difficult for me. So I offered him, I want to say that I offered him $650 and it was an $800 wholesale coin at the time. And I told him, I gave him other places to go that would probably give them more money. And it turned out that the one place I know of, which is a very notable coin shop in the Detroit area, only offered him $50 more than I offered him for it, and he didn't sell it to him either. And that was my only actual. I've seen a lot of them at shows. I actually have dealer friends that have bought a few of them, even recently. But that was my experience with it.
And this was what, 2001,
I'm
2002?
guessing 2000, late 2000 to 2001. It could have been either. I mean, it was 25 years ago, at least. Scrap gold at that point was in the $300 an ounce, and I want to say silver at that point was $3.35, something like that an ounce.
It just sounds sacrilegious knowing that gold just broke $4,200.
Yep. Yep. Well, I mean, if you think about it, gold has never really blew up like that. I mean, what was it a year ago? $1,200 or $1,600 or
Yeah,
something like that?
it's been nuts.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's my experience. I've held a lot of them. Looked at a lot of them. Like I said, I have a dealer friend that a couple fun shows ago, he bought 5 of them, sold 3 and kept 2. So
Remember the dealers used to weigh the, yeah.
there are still dealers that will weigh barber dimes.
Yep, there are still people that do that.
Yep.
This is
Absolutely.
another number that drives me crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
5633.
And just think, the sky was falling, what, 3 weeks ago?
5633. Yeah, crazy stuff. And so again, there's some speculation as to why that's happening.
It's still the same. I want to know. I want to see where it's at in January.
Yeah, it's
Because
going to be interesting to see.
did you see that comics went offline?
Well, okay, so I did, but I also understand that that was an IT issue.
It could have been.
Well, no, it
I'm not
absolutely
saying it
was.
wasn't.
They had a server cooling bank that went out,
Sure.
and they didn't want the servers to overheat. So
Yeah, I
whenever you
understand.
have that, you have to shut down an IT system. You have to
Right.
resolve
I
that. So,
understand that, but it was convenient timing.
well, it's
And I'm that's all of us have our
yeah,
little conspiracy thing in our brain,
and you love your conspiracies.
and I do. But it's a natural thing. They're actually saying it's natural behavior
Yeah.
to like conspiracy.
Well, of course, of course. People love to feel like they have the inside scoop of things,
Yeah.
and it helps people justify gaps in knowledge, right?
Right.
So,
Well,
dude,
gaps and facts.
no, I was just picking on you. Come on, dude, that was funny.
Yeah, gaps and facts.
Gaps in facts. Oh, how are you, Jack? What's up, brother?
I'm doing well, thanks. Good to be here this morning.
It's always good to have you on panel. So let's dig in. So I'm going to ask a question to chat. If you want to, Google it, you want to do that, fine, not a big deal. But if you can just take a chance and answer this, how many people know what the very first federal building was? And I'll give you a clue. It has to do a lot with what we're talking about today. Yesterday, we talked about Charlotte and Dahlonega. We talked about the mint's history. We talked about why it started. We talked about the fact of 1799, when they first discovered gold, wasn't the thing that actually sparked the generation, the creation of those additional mints. It was actually the creation of the Coin Act and setting the spot silver gold ratio at 15-1, which undervalued gold, overvalued silver. And what ended up happening with that particular structure was gold was being sent offshore. And because gold was being sent offshore, the US had to do something in order to maintain their structure, their idea, right? And so gaps in facts, laughing my butt off. Conspiracies have zero. Yeah, well, Nick, there's some fact in a conspiracy. We see what happened with Kennedy and some of the stuff that was released, but absolutely, yeah, that's why I joke about doing that. I appreciate the comment in chat. But when we look at Charlotte and Dahlonega, there were things that happened 30 years before the opening of those mints that actually started that process into place. But the real determining factor wasn't necessarily just the discovery of gold. It was the fact that the US knew just the same thing happened in Europe, right? When they refinanced, when they restructured the monetary system, there were a lot of people that had to turn in money, turn in that stuff. We saw that in 1933. There's a whole lot of issues there. But what does that do to the market? Well, in this particular case, when they were trying to maintain their wealth, they were putting acts into place. But while all of this was going on, there was something happening on the sidelines. People knew about it. We study it. We hear about all of this stuff. But a lot of people have never really thought about how those gold rushes built something that we all know today. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about that structure. We're going to talk about how those things kind of tie into one another. And I haven't seen the answer. I've been looking in here to see. So far, I haven't seen anybody say it. Again, what was the first federal building? If nobody has an answer, we'll give it another minute or so. We'll talk about this. But why, oh, why is Frosty talking about Dahlonega and stuff? Oh, DWC, Dirty Water's like, I looked it up. I know what it is. I'm just not putting it in. A lot of people don't know this, and I'll give you a clue. It's numismatic, right? We're talking about it on a coin channel. Go ahead, Dirty Water, throw it in there. Siren, thank you so much for throwing that link in there. Again, I'm running dual stream on this particular topic. It went really well. If you're watching in vertical mode and you want to watch it in horizontal, go check out horizontal. All right. Well, the answer is pretty simple. It is the Philadelphia Mint. And so the Philadelphia Mint, the US Mint, was created July of 1792. You know what's funny is the Federal Hall of New York City. A lot of people say that, but it's actually not. And the reason is because the first federal buildings were actually created through the order of a constitution. Now, they had buildings in which federal business was being conducted, but it wasn't one that was actually generated because of the Constitution. The Constitution, there were 5 buildings, and they were built in this order. The U.S. Mint at Philadelphia, the President's House in Philadelphia, the U.S. Capitol Building in Washington, D.C., the White House, and then the Treasury Building. And they were built in that particular order because at the time of 1792, where was the capital of the United States? Jack, you know the answer to that one? I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Philadelphia.
Absolutely, Philadelphia. Now, it was only the temporary capital, but a lot of people forget if you're going to be looking at numismatic history and you really want to know the origins of numismatics, you have to go to Philadelphia. So we're going to talk a little bit about Philadelphia today. We're going to talk about what happened with ye old mint and some of the adaptations, some of the growth. I'm going to share my screen because I want people to understand I live in San Antonio, Texas. Well, I shouldn't say in San Antonio. I actually live north of San Antonio. But I don't live in these areas. Some of you do. So this is what's going to happen on the channel for the next couple weeks. You guys really enjoy the mint discussions. You guys really enjoy learning about the histories. So for the next couple weeks, that's what we're going to talk about on Saturdays. We're going to break down the history. Next week, we'll talk New Orleans. And then on Sunday, we'll kind of talk a little bit about the coins that came from New Orleans, maybe do show and tell of some New Orleans coins, do a little chit chat. Jack Riley talks about the micro old Morgans. We'll probably show some of those. Jack, I don't know how many coins you have that are counterfeit with an O mint mark. So we'll be able to kind of talk about that and show some of the things that we have and really get to understand how the things that we look at now compared and came from those mints. So really tying those things together, really building the conversation. But on Sundays, I want you guys to help tell the story. I really want you guys to engage in this. So as we talk about this stuff on Saturday, I'll be putting stuff on my my social feed there on YouTube. I'll be putting it on my Instagram account and stuff like that. But if you guys have photos from the Philadelphia Mint, if you guys have been to where they had the second one, where the new building has been constructed, which has been there since what, 1901 or something like that. If you guys have stuff like that, or you guys have really early coins, maybe it's the first gold coin ever minted at Philadelphia. Maybe it's one of the first 3-cent nickels or something like that that you want to share. Send me the photos and we'll have a collage going on. We'll be talking about the various things and we'll have that conversation. Because I want you guys to engage in this channel. I want you guys to be able to share, provide feedback, give some information. And you guys really like the kind of series idea. So we're going to try that for a few weeks, see how that works. If it continues, we'll continue that process with different stories. We'll bring in some Wild West stuff. We'll do a more in-depth numismatic study of the counterfeits that Jack brings in. We'll continue the variety of stuff, but we'll take it into kind of segments. So maybe a month we'll talk about the mints. Maybe a month we'll talk about the minting process. Maybe for a few weeks we'll talk specifically counterfeits, have some people up there. Maybe we'll talk solely money for a week or two. But just have these pieces where we're talking and getting collaboration and talking. Because again, I want you guys engaged. So I hope you like this idea. Provide me feedback. Let's discuss this. And I'm going to leave this open here while we're talking about it. Again, what I really want is frostbite on whatnot. I don't sell. The reason that I don't is because I want people, Nick, to understand this is an education channel. I don't talk positive about coins because I eventually want to buy them from somebody. I don't talk about grading coins or undervalue coins because I'm trying to get that coin myself. I don't want the integrity of the data that I provide to be questioned because I'm selling coins. I don't sell them. I don't buy, I don't sell here. That's not what it's about. This is purely education. I want to teach people about the minting process. I want to teach people about the history. We all love stories. That was evident yesterday. And so that's what this channel is about. Bring the experts up, bring the people who are far more knowledgeable about places, things, people, the inspection of counterfeits. So that's the premise of this channel. So I don't think that I will ever do any kind of auction. I will support auctions like Wounded Warrior and things of that nature. I will stand by and support those types of programs and fundraisers. But it won't happen on my channel. I don't want anybody ever questioning the integrity of the people who are here as guests. It's not ever going to be a money grab. In fact, Eric and Jack, you guys remember when I found the whole thing with the coins, right?
The whole thing with the coins. What's that?
Explain the RFID.
Right.
Right. I could have really easily capitalized on that. I could have ordered a whole bunch of those things and said, if you want these, buy them from me.
Oh, yes.
But that would have kind of underhanded what the intention of this was. I just needed people to have the information, right? That's what this channel is. So if you're here looking for coins or you want to ask me what the value of one is, send me good photos. Please don't send me the coins. If you're going to send me a coin, it needs to be a gift, and I don't mind those. But again, I'm not dealing with the finances of coins. Okay, I just don't want to deal with that. I want to give good people good information, and that's all. Luther, Frosty, you don't have to explain your passion. Well, I have somebody asking in chat. So they're in the vertical mode. They're asking a question, and so I want people to be aware of it. So that's why I'm explaining that. Joe McBride, what's going on, brother? That's another guy who's very knowledgeable about varieties and errors, especially Lincoln Sense. Loves the Lincoln Sense. Good to see you. No, it's all good, Luther. I appreciate you looking out for me, brother. I really do. Luther's a good dude. And if you ever want to know what a Vice coin looks like, you got to go check out what he's put out. He does some really good stuff. All right, so let's dig back into this. Eric,
Yes.
ye old mint. You remember this picture?
I do.
Let me. I tried to pull it up.
Oh, not the picture that I'm seeing now.
Not the picture that you're seeing now. It's this one right here. Ta-da!
Yes.
So this was the very first mint, and so when you come with a brand new program, when you come with, we were a fledgling nation, and you build something, there's going to be problems with your process. Now, what a lot of people forget about during this process is we're so used to the high-tech machines. These buildings were quite large. And if you see the tier of the 3 building, you're going to see that they had the foundry, but they also had one in which they had horses.
Yeah, some of the presses were actually run by horses back then.
The screw presses were actually run by horses and 3, 4, 5-man teams. And so it was a very physical job back in that day. And so when you look at how many coins Philadelphia was able to produce, they were pretty minuscule at the beginning. This is why, and Jack, you're far more adept to talking about mintages and stuff because of all the old coppers and the dollars, the stuff that you've dealt with, especially looking at counterfeits. One of your passion is those large cents.
Correct.
And so when you're talking about mintages, kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what your average mintage might have been for the first 10, 15, 20 years of the U.S. Mint.
Well, I don't really have that in front of me, but in many cases, an entire year might have been 200,000 coins struck. And like the 1794s, there were 58 different varieties. And so the other thing they were facing was the fact that die life was not very long. They would crack, break dies. They'd have to go in and repair dies. And so they were constantly changing dies in the course of just 1 year's production. So they had a lot of struggles. I mean, it took them quite some time before they hit an actual million level of large cents. And all the large cents were struck at Philadelphia.
Yeah, and again, that's exactly what I was looking for. I appreciate that. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, by the way, with mintage numbers. But the whole premise of this is when you're looking at silver, copper, or gold coins, it wasn't uncommon for them to be in the 4 or 5 digit range.
Yeah, I was going to say first year I think is around 11,000 coins.
Yeah. And so when you're talking about 5 digits, you know, a lot of people, how do I say this? We had somebody come in yesterday and talk about rarity. The 2025 Lincoln cent, 1.3 billion. Now, granted, our population in the United States is higher. The monetary system is totally different. We're self sufficient in some regards. And I say some regards, I don't want to get into the whole real money discussion right now. Because that leads to a totally different Stackers story. But when we're talking about mintages of 4,000, 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, we're not necessarily talking about rare. However, we're talking about coins that are 200, 230, 240, 250 years old, because there were coins that came out, for instance, the one from, was it Maine? The one with the tree from like the 1690s, the first ones that came out.
Massachusetts coins, yeah.
Massachusetts, there you go. They weren't part of the U.S. Mint, right? They were isolated. They were part. It wasn't until 1792 that the U.S. Mint started to come around. And so you had a lot of mom and pop shops, and we talked a little bit about, the Fluchtwanger token. I've shown the Fluchtwanger token on my table, or the dollars that we talked about yesterday. So there were a lot of man-made stuff that was happening in, their mom and pop shops. We've talked about gold production with, I can't remember the name of the dollar, the really famous dollar, and I can't remember the life of it. This was when I was doing my conspiracy about peaches and stacking, and people that stack love peaches, because you talk about some of the other ones. Let me see if I can remember what the name of that coin was. I'm losing my train of thought right now. But
printing something.
Say again.
My printer went off right when you started talking.
Oh, it's okay. I just can't remember there was a dollar token. Anyway, all of these things were competing with the U.S. Mint. So the U.S. Mint started to have to up their production. Well, the ye old mint, unfortunately, wasn't something that was going to be able to sustain operations. They just weren't going to be at their size. And so they ended up having to open a new one. And I'll throw this up here really quick. Let me change the image. They had to change to this new location. And this new location was the second mint. And again, when you're talking about Philadelphia, this is not the mint that we're used to seeing, right? This is the secondary one. But this started happening around 1830s. And we start talking about the Lonigo. We start talking about the gold rush. We start talking about the things that were happening during this time frame. The United States Mint was forced to become more efficient. They were forced to become more powerful. Because remember, when we're talking about Dahlonega and Charlotte, they were minting gold coins, but so was Philadelphia. And even with both of those mints in full production, they couldn't even come close to the output that Philadelphia was doing. Philadelphia at that point was kind of like the primary source for coins. Now, granted, during this time frame, New Orleans picked up and did help carry some of that load. But not only was the U.S. Mint trying to create better technologies. At this time, they were utilizing steam, right? The Industrial Revolution had started to pick up a little bit. They went from the screw presses to the steam press. This started to help with efficiency. The numbers started to get better. But we also started to do things with other countries. The Philippines, we started to do stuff with Spain. We started to do stuff with I'm losing who the other one was with. Who was the come on, there was one more. And I cannot for the life of me remember who that was. Who else did we build stuff for? I wish Paula was here. Paula would know this.
I'm looking it up right now.
I can't remember. It was Philadelphia, or Philadelphia did for. I can't remember.
Oh God, the Philadelphia Mint has struck coins for almost every major country in the world.
Yeah, but back in the that time frame, the 1830s, 1833 was when they built this particular building. There were like 3 countries or 4 countries they were doing it for. I can't remember. I thought I had it in my notes, but I didn't. So not only were they minting coins for the U.S., but they were also minting coins for other nations. And so they really, really, really needed to step things up. And they maintained this building for 50 years, I think. And then in 1901, the U.S. Mint, the final building of this substructure that was here was tore down, and the new mint was built. Now, in
Columbia. That was from 1881 up to 1881.
that sounds right. But the one thing that happened during this time frame was, as technology was increasing, the mintages were going up. There was still problems with gold, and that's why the gold rush. What did the gold rush have to do with Philadelphia? Well, people started to realize that we're producing all these coins, and the silver being overvalued was causing a problems for our gold. And so in 1835, when they set up the process for the mint, they did that Coin Act where they authorized the 3 mints. They also started to put things into place that would eventually make it illegal for us to trade other foreign silver gold as monetary. So we wouldn't be utilizing the reals and things of that nature that we were still utilizing at this point in history. And because of that, our money started to stay onshore. And this is where we started. Gold actually really started pushing the economy and forced that growth and it would take a number of years, right? Because there were a lot of people that were still competing on the lower level. We talked about the Fugtwanger token. We talked about the gold, the Bachelor gold that was being done at this time frame that was overvalued. People wanted that over the other. They would take the melt the coins down. They would send them to him. They would manufacture these things. It was all undermining the process. So 1835 was a pivotal year in trying to make sure that our precious metals and our coinage was staying here. We talked a lot about Andrew Jackson and his drive and desire to have that real money, that non-fiat, that non-promissory stuff. And all of that filtered to Philadelphia. And again, we find this in processes. And as technology advanced, Philadelphia needed a bigger and bigger and bigger mint. So 1901, they produced this. They had a great big floor. And the Philadelphia Mint became a worldwide force in coins, in the producing of coins and the production. And as Eric stated just a few moments ago, Philadelphia actually became the kind of center hub for minting for the known world at the time. Every major area was sending coins or some type of element to, and I mean, we did coins for Panama, we did coins for Puerto Rico, we did coins for Spanish government. There were a lot of different things that we were doing, engaging during this time, major melt-offs of coins, all the way up into the early 1900s with the Pittman Act and things like that. So they were engaged in worldwide monetary structure. So if you ever want to know, and again, I'm not going to be talking about this for long because I only wanted to talk about 30 minutes or so. But if you ever want to know about the history of numismatics, you really have to start in Philadelphia. And so what I want to do is I want to take a moment and kind of open up to chat. I'm going to pull my chat back up so now that I don't necessarily need to share my screen anymore. I'm going to leave this picture here just because it's better than this goofy thing that you got going on in my face. How many of you live in or near Philadelphia? How many of you have actually been to the Philadelphia Mint? because there's a lot of stuff that I've seen and toured the mint virtually. I've been to Philadelphia, never actually went into the Philadelphia Mint. Seen it, right? I've been to Geno's, I've been to Pat's. Go to Philadelphia, you have to do that. But how many people have actually been there and experienced this? And the reason that I'm asking these questions is because, it's nice for me to talk about histories. But many of you live in the areas in which these histories exist. You can go there, you can see these things. And so, again, moving forward, I want you guys, as we start talking about this stuff, we'll tell you the Saturday before what we're going to be talking about on that Sunday, and look at some of these things and identify, hey, who lives there? Who's been by there? Susan says, I live near, but I never been. And see, these are opportunities for people to spark interest and ask questions. And, maybe we get to go somewhere we've never been before. How many of you guys live near Virginia and haven't gone to check out any of the old Civil War stuff, right? I really want to engage in this history piece. And so I really want to enjoy stories from you guys as well. So this is kind of what's going to happen over the next few weeks. If you guys like this, then, please let me know. If you're new to the channel, you kind of like that idea, you want to engage in that, consider subscribing. I would appreciate that. I think Philadelphia is cool. I'm looking forward to a real big breakdown of Philadelphia, talking about coin making, talking about the minting process. There's just some really neat stuff about Philadelphia. So, but again, Philadelphia's boom actually was a secondary component of the gold rush that happened in Dahlonega and Charlotte. So, to all things, there's secondary and tertiary reactions. And so, again, all these things play together to create the money machine that we have. Now, we all know 1913 was the place where our financial system started to decline. We won't really talk about that right now, but there are going to be discussions regarding what happened at that meeting in 1913, what happened with the Federal Reserve, where our money's at, why silver and gold no longer became the backing for our money, what that did. So we'll talk a lot about that stuff. Emerald Coast says that Philadelphia is on my list. We already have a Pat versus Geno's discussion going on in here.
Uh-oh.
If you're in Philadelphia, you gotta tell me which one you like better. I've been to both. They both have their merits. Because some of this gets really, really.
Oh yeah, do you like the whiz or do you like the real cheese, or
yeah? So
do you like the meat chopped or do you like the meat whole?
There's a lot of stuff. So let's go check out some of the comments in chat. And again, while I was going over stuff, I haven't been paying a lot of attention to chat. For those of you that have subscribed, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I greatly appreciate you. There's a lot of discussion regarding watching and where you're getting your information from. Yeah, oh, well, again, this particular set of information is actually coming from something called the Greater Encyclopedia, or the Encyclopedia for the Greater Philadelphia. If you've never been to this site, I'm going to throw this in chat. There's a lot of great information regarding Philadelphia, but go to the sources, folks, right? If you're going to be looking up history on Virginia, go check out the Virginia archives. If you're going to look at the history of the United States, go to the National Archives. If you're going to be doing research on a city, in particular relating to the early structure of the United States Mint, where do you want to get your information from? Probably from the sites in Philadelphia that actually built and generated that. So while I'm going through some of these things, if anybody has any questions about where my resources are, I live full transparency. So please feel free to ask. If you have better resources, let me know and we can pull those up. I got absolutely no issue with that. And Jack, thank you for subscribing. Greatly appreciate that.
Interesting fact, Frosty. The third Philadelphia Mint building became a college also. So it seems like a trend that a lot of these buildings that they end up retiring become colleges.
Well,
And also,
they're stable buildings.
yep,
There's lots of offices, so there's a potential for classrooms.
right.
There's again, if you're going to have manufacturing or engineering or things of that nature, you already have a lot of the machinery and stuff there.
Well, that and
Um,
the history of the mints too is a paradox of the development of the Industrial Revolution.
exactly. And
Buildings
so,
had to get bigger to hold the technology that was for the days.
yeah. And so, is it ironic? Maybe. Is it a cool fact? Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was
Right.
wondering. I just I googled, are all the four what mint sites still up? The second one was tore down as soon as it was mothballed. As soon as they got rid of it, the next year it was tore down. It was never repurposed.
That's correct.
But the
Yeah.
first one was tore down, what, 1908 or something? And it didn't say what it was purposed as, though.
Well, remember when you're talking about the very first one, you had the stables, you
Right.
had the
Foundry.
foundry, and as they did some of the improvements, um, smarter people than me actually started looking at what's the construct, what's the structure of the city. And when they built the first mint, things were sparse. They had to travel a long way. The roads weren't very good. When they built the second one, they built it into the industrial center. It was downtown. It was in the public eye. It was the building again that you see here on the screen. A lot of people were go by. It was something to behold. The power of gold increased the opportunity for funding of the buildings. And again, you look at the general structure, and you got the tower in the background, right? You got the cityscape there in Philadelphia. Um, but what happened with the last one was that they actually thought about positioning, and it wasn't so much a grandeur thing, which before it was just getting the coins made.
Right.
Then it become we're being recognized. We're actually, we're a federal entity. We're something that's happening, and they were growing and they were getting bigger. But the third U.S. Mint actually staged themselves up for success. And how did they do that? Well, the foundry was pretty much right next door. They were very close to the waterway. They were very close to the railway. And so they had this massive building, 65 presses. They had the capability of producing, at the time, it was something like 12, 15,000 coins. As technology increased and they started to get some of the Schuler presses and some of those better steam versus electric presses, they went from 10,000 per day to 30,000 today to 65,000 per day. And so the numbers just started going up and up and up and up and up per press. And when you look at how many coins can be produced in a day, if all 65 presses are run at Philadelphia, the number's staggering,
Well, they
right?
say a million every 30 minutes.
And so when you're talking, and I love the 1921 peace dollar, because one of those facts is, where did they get minted? Philadelphia. How many days were they minted? December 28th, 1921. One day, just under a million coins. So when we talk about the Industrial Revolution, when we talk about the mint, when we talk about growth, the founding of that gold forced the hand of the government to say, if we want our money to stay on shore, if we want to become a powerful, strong nation, we need to have better processes, and it has to be here. We need to make sure we don't do this. Oh, hint, hint, wink, wink, by the way. Does any of that sound familiar? current rhetoric, right? This is kind of what they're talking about right now. When all your money is offshore, how much do you own of it, right? And they recognized this back in the 1800s. You talked about Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was not a person for promissory notes. He didn't feel that our money should be tied up with Spain and France and England. He felt that our money should be here. Our precious metals should be something that should be cherished, and we should use that to build our money. He was bullish on gold and silver. He was quite the man. And we talked about that. Tiger Sacker and I did one on Andrew Jackson as well. Number one president that, number one duels, right? He had more duels than any other president.
Yep. And he didn't die from them.
And he didn't die from them. Yeah, exactly. So, true person, really understood the value of money and the integrity of that, had a hand in generating some of the structure that would build the U.S. Mint to what it is. And again, all the way up until 1913, our nation was really growing and becoming strong because of the things that happened during this time frame. Now, that wasn't to say that there weren't problems during this time frame. There were a lot of political issues, and you still had people bullish and bearish on silver and gold. There were people who absolutely didn't think that gold should be the standard form of money. There were still issues with transportation of the stuff and robberies. We had Carson City that would come out years later, and we would have wagon trains and trains themselves, and we would still have thefts. I mean, good grief. Just a couple years ago, we had a massive mint theft of people stealing actually from the mint itself. Yep. And so there's always going to be this. There's always going to be some of these issues that are engaged with this. But it's just a fun history and something that I wanted to share with you guys, kind of tied to what happened yesterday. So I'm missing a lot of chat.
They were talking about Philadelphia mint marks.
Oh, okay. When they came out, when they had them. Yep.
The first coin to have it was actually a Netherlands coin.
And an interesting fact about the Philadelphia Mint, there was a coin show where they did, they used AI to generate a bunch of questions. Jack, I don't know if you remember when they did this. Matt and Mike were taking a test and they were streaming it live. And one of the questions is the first P mint mark. And it was like, no, it was not on the penny. It wasn't until 2017. And they were like, no, it's not, it's this. And it's like, no, it wasn't. That wasn't, that didn't have a P mint mark. And it just goes, if you're getting your information from AI, be careful. Because it doesn't always get stuff right. Even the stuff that's commonplace for us.
Here's an interesting question for you, getting to the 2025 penny sets.
Okay.
Did they strike the 2025 D pennies at Philadelphia?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Something tells me they did. I'm just saying. I mean, why would they strike 232 pennies for Philadelphia, 232 in gold, and then...
Oh, okay. Hold on. Clarification of what he's saying. He's not talking about the 500 million coins that were minted 2025.
No, I'm talking about the last strikes.
The 232 with the Denver mint mark. I absolutely believe that all of those were done in Philadelphia.
So do I. Is there any information to say yes or no about that?
I don't know. But it doesn't make sense because Denver has the capability of making their own dies, but most of the dies have always been made in Philly.
No, Denver's made their own dies for years now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I said Denver has the capability of making their own dies, but Philadelphia is always the one that originally was making the dies.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see if the 232 Denver coins were actually minted in Denver. Be interesting to see. I don't know if they were or not.
It just popped
now.
Into my head. Sorry for the squirrel.
No, it's okay. What I do notice, and again, we're going to sidetrack, and then I'm going to get into Jack Young's position here in about 5 minutes. I do want to bring something up. And this is the Stacks and Bowers. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. I want to show you guys a picture on this 232 coin thing. Where are the auction? Omega. Read more. That is not the thing I want to get to. I actually need to go into the auction. So hold on just a sec. I got to sneeze. Pardon me. Let's pull into the auctions. I need to get the right photo. I did want to point out something that somebody had asked me about regarding the dies. And it's something that I never really thought about. And I want to ask everybody else if they had ever seen this before. And I've got unfortunately, the screen I'm trying to find is behind my camera. So if you see me doing this back and forth, bear with me. This is what I want to show. Okay, is this image right here. Let me pull this up and share this screen real quick. They're selling with the canceled dies. Yes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I want to show. And so as we replace this with this window, you guys can see this okay? All right. So there are 3 sets of dies: Philadelphia, Denver, and the gold. The gold ones are here. We know that because these QR codes, and it actually states when you see it one given picture, these are the gold, these are the Philadelphia, this is the Denver. Now, if you look at the structure of the dies, they're the same. Okay, they use the same types of presses. It's not the Schuler presses; they're the other ones. I can't remember, Brenner,
Robeck, or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it. Paula would know that off the top of her head. But these are the actual gold dies. And so when you get to look at this, you can actually get to see much better imagery of the actual dies. I really like that they did this because you can actually see what those dies actually look like. Now, a lot of people have asked, hey, Frosty, is it easy for them to switch the dies and come up with things like a mule? Well, the design between the two of these, if you switch back and forth between, they are very similar. But if we were to pull the die of the quarter, this general structure of the die is slightly different. Obviously, you're going to have a thickening here. And so what is going to make that determination is going to be the collar itself, right? And I don't think they show the collar in this one, but they do show the collar in this. And I'm going to pull this up. Stacks and Bowers. Let me get there. Those are the lots. That's not the. It's not what I want to show. Here it is. This is. I'm trying to pull this image up, so give me just a moment. Okay, so this die right here. Whoops! What happened? Yikes! That was weird. This right here, you guys see this die? So this is the die, and then this is the collar that it sits in. And so these collars have these little rings and stuff that sit over that. They hold these in place, right? And so these are different for every denomination. This is something that has been changed to allow or to not allow those denominations to sit in there. These are technology changes that are being made at the mint. Now, I don't know if the dime looks the exact same way as this one. This is the gold structure, if I'm not mistaken, because you have that image here. So when we go back and we look at, oops, what did I just do? I got out of that. Shouldn't have done that. I'm tracking so you guys can navigate this too, just so you guys can see this. When you go into here, again, you'll see that this symbol right, exists on these, but the toning, the coloration is different between Philadelphia. So when I look at this particular issue, I don't know if this is the gold one or if this is the Philadelphia one. I don't know. I can't tell you which one that is.
And they were obviously struck on different presses because the dies are different.
The dies are different, yeah. And so the dies for Philadelphia and Denver are the same. Now, the dies at the Philadelphia and Denver Mint might be exactly the same. I don't know the answer to that. But it would be a very interesting question to determine whether or not these were actually struck at Philadelphia or not.
And are those little UPC codes on the side?
Yes. And part of that goes, remember the system that I talked about 2 months ago?
I was just wondering if you hit it with your phone, does something pop up?
Probably not. If I remember the conversation that I had with a gentleman who their company actually created the technology to take a photo of each coin strike, the die, the coin strike, and the planchet, because they take those photos at every single strike before and after. And if the system,
photos that is,
it's unreal. It's unreal. And they do this because if the system detects that they don't match the known pattern combination, the system shuts down. It stops. You cannot produce another coin if it detects what's not in the registry for that. So my assumption, and I say it's an assumption based off of what he told me, because again, you can't give everybody all your proprietary information, right?
Right.
This is the mechanism by which that photograph would verify that this is the right die pairing for that piece.
And according to what I found out, the last Denver cents were struck a day earlier in Denver. But that's like a news source, so it's
I don't know. It's a really interesting question because we know that Denver coins have been struck at Philadelphia. We know that San Francisco has struck coins.
Right.
We know that West Point at a certain time minted coins. So we know that the mints have done that. It's be curious if it was Denver, then good on the mint.
Yeah.
And again, yesterday, folks, if you missed it, I ate crow because there's the fingerprint on the final coin. I still want to know if it's going to be Christy McNally or if it's this Basnet.
It's a pretty big fingerprint. I mean, it goes all the way on the in front of the face too.
Yeah, it goes all the way across the surface of the coin. So I'm going to be curious if it's the I'm laying wager that it's going to be the senator. This is going to be his thumbprint. I would really like to see.
So that tells you that because that's a Denver coin, isn't it?
Nope.
No,
that's the Privy Mint mark.
Right.
That's the.
Well, I'm just saying it's the Denver coin. I think. Nope.
No, this is Philadelphia. It was the Philadelphia.
That would show you that they were minted there if he was holding a Denver coin.
Yeah. Here is the Denver coin.
All right.
And obviously, much better. Oh, and by the way, when you're looking at these, the mintages or the grades, Denver does have better grades across the board. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were minted at Denver.
Yeah, it's just kind of a strange thing to set up a press for 232 strikes when you could set up one press and do all of them, you know.
But some of these 63, 64, so they're not high grade coins. So anyway, I just wanted to say this. I got to eat crow yesterday. Paul and I were looking at this. We were in that single mind's eye. And she says, look at this. And I was like, I was just on the website looking at that. Sure enough, there's that final coin with that massive fingerprint on it. And this will continue to have problems for this coin because it's zinc and whatever's on there is always on there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this coin in 10 years. I think this coin might turn black. Be interesting to see what happens. And if anybody wants to redo this, I'm sure PCGS is going to put the same label on it, right?
Oh, it's up to 170 grand. Wasn't it only 70,000 yesterday?
No, it was 170 grand. This one hasn't changed much. And I don't expect it to change much until the second week of December.
Yeah, well, live bidding goes the 11th of December.
You're roboting. Say that again.
The live bids, the 11th of December.
Yes, 11 December is when the live bids occur. So, also vote for Pedro. Is vote for Pedro in here? Vote for Pedro sent me something yesterday saying that my screen was, yeah, it might disintegrate, Sean. That's a very real possibility. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But again, out of sight, out of mind. Now, could this be somebody else's thumbprint? Maybe this was on the planchette or something. Maybe, not likely. Simply because they were the ones to take this hot off the press. And if they had washed their hands or put any kind of antifungal whatever stuff, or because they have these things all over the place, who knows what could have been on their finger. Maybe they had a donut or something. Maybe they wiped their face. But again, copper, you want to be careful. Now, you'll see people handing stuff like Chuck will handle stuff, but he's very clear about, you'll hear the sound of his hands. They're very dry. He knows exactly to wash his hands and how to do that stuff. This is probably just a simple oversight. Unfortunately, that person could go down as the person who ruined the last Lincoln cent. Not a great thing to do if you're a senator, somebody who's being considered for the Mint director. So interesting. Yeah, a lot of people don't like these. To each their own. It's a way of doing it. I'll be interested to see exactly what happens with the 2026 and how they're going to manage that. Eric and I have our own ideas of what's going to happen with the 2026 coinage, but we'll wait and see what happens. All right. Well, Jack, I talked a little bit longer than I wanted to. I want to give you time. Jack has produced some stuff for us, so let me pull up what you sent me. And first off, before we get into this, what do you guys? Oh, his internet went down. Okay. Eric, we'll be back. What did you guys think of this? Did you guys enjoy this conversation? Do you guys like the idea of this? If you do, please do me a favor and make sure that you let me know. I like the general flow of this. I think it'll be fun. And again, it'll just continue the conversation and make kind of like the whole weekend about a specific topic. Nana's like, yes. Dirty Water, take care of yourself. Neil saying yes. It looks like we've got a good pattern, so we'll continue to do that. What's up, Mr. Happy Stacker? How you doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks, Shane. Appreciate you. So, Jack, I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to turn over the time to you because, again, as we talk about Philadelphia and we talk about some of the early coinage, it's important to be able to talk about this stuff. So let's pull up Mr. Jack Young. Jack, the floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you. So I write a lot of articles, and I write articles for Early American Copper, EAC's Pennywise. And this is one that I've actually put together as a draft. It's about ready to go, but I thought that I would preview it here. And I often get a lot of questions about what do I collect? Because everybody sees me with counterfeit coins, and obviously that's one of my focuses. But I do collect genuine coins as well. And I enjoy collecting coins, early large cents and some other coins that have different counter marks on them and counter stamps. And I enjoy the research of those as well. And so that's one of my focuses. And then there was an article in Pennywise in the last edition where the editor, Harry Salyards, was talking about generational coins. And he was talking about those coins that come around probably once in your lifetime. These are coins that are prohibitively rare, extremely expensive. And the discussion was, if you see one come up, would you actually go ahead and spend the money to buy it? Well, that type of coin's pretty much out of my league. And so I have what I call foundation coins. And these are coins that really create the foundation for my collection. There are coins that I would never part with. So if I ended up with getting rid of the majority of my collection, it would come down to these 8 coins. Go down just a little bit here.
So, Dandy Dave, thanks, brother. Dandy Dave said, Frostbite's about the hardest working person on YouTube. The production is first rate and you're always interesting. I appreciate that, but I've got to give credit to those people that come up on panel and those of you in chat. Jack, and again, I don't mean to distract from you. We were talking about this very thing right before the start of the stream. There are some amazing people in chat, very, very, very knowledgeable people. And you guys ask amazing questions. You guys provide amazing feedback. And the more that you guys produce information and questions and ask me these things, the better the streams are going to get. Because we are a community. Jack coming on talking about this stuff. Did you hear what he said at the very beginning? This is almost ready for release. But you know what? He's sharing it with you guys now. Right? The quality of people that come onto this channel, Paula, Eric, Chuck, Mike, Matt, Aaron Burke, Jack Young, Jack Riley, the ACEF. These are all people. My buddy just introduced him recently, Hercules, talked about crypto. All of these people are coming because of relationships that you guys are helping me establish. This channel's growing. This channel's doing well because of the stuff that you guys are doing to help grow it. So I want you, Luther, right, sending me stuff to learn about these things. You guys are having a massive impact on this. I appreciate it. I don't mind doing the work. But you guys deserve a lot of the credit too. So this is back to you guys. You guys want to see this channel grow. This is your channel as well. So again, kudos to everybody. Sorry to interrupt you, Jack. I really want people to understand that I appreciate those that come into the channel.
No problem. Thanks. All right. If we can just roll down a little bit, we'll go to my first example. This is what has been known as an 1804 restrike large cent. And when Harry talks about some of the generational coins, typically we're talking about top pops. When I look at my foundation coins, this is probably the lowest graded example by any of the TPGs. It is definitely the lowest pop. And you can see the coin, this is actually in a PCGS holder. If you know large cents, you know that 1804 is relatively rare. It's one of the lowest production mintages of the Drake Bust era. And so they command a premium even in lower grades. This one's not quite an 1804 large cent. And actually, if you look at the date, the 4 looks just a little unusual. And if you know Drake Bust large cents, you'll realize that the reverse doesn't match a Drake Bust large cent. Let's go down a little bit further. So again, I talk about PCGS graded their example. The lowest one that they've seen is a 6, and that is actually this one. NGC's lowest graded example was called very good. And then I just asked, why is it so worn? Because most of these they actually thought these were minted in the 1860s. And back at the time, the mint would actually scrap out dies. And so someone purchased some worn out dies, and the obverse die was actually in 1803, and they went in and changed the date to a 4, the 3 to a 4, and then the other was in 1820. So they mismatched. They reworked 1803 die with an 1820 reverse die and created this so-called restrike. It actually is a counterfeit coin. And most of the ones that we see are in relatively high grades. This one may well have been used as a pocket piece. Really don't know how it got so worn, but it's just enchanting to me that you have something like this. It was made for collectors, in many cases just to fill a hole, but certainly it was also used to fool some collectors into believing they were buying a genuine large 1804 large
Oops.
cent. So go down a little bit further. This is the coin actually in the holder. It's really a nice image of that. And again, you see it's a good fix. And then down farther, I pulled out the PCGS information. You can see there's 45s and 50s and 55s. These go all the way up into the 65 or so. But the one I circled is the lowest one they show is the 6. And then a little bit further, I show the NGC documentation that shows that their lowest graded one is very good. So pretty confident mine is the lowest graded 1804 restrike out there. And again, it's got a top place in my collection of foundation coins. My second one is very interesting. And this one, I call it the 1795 double struck off center countermark large cent. And I said that was kind of a mouthful, but there's an awful lot going on with this coin. It's, again, a very unique coin. Minting process that obviously had some issues going through that. Someone decided to engrave it with a 2. That was a counter or what they were using it for, really not sure. And then it was provenance to what they call the House of David McKinney. He was a large collector who had a very large collection of large cents, came across the heritage auction block some time ago. So just a very unique looking piece. Get down a little bit further. And that's just off the heritage site. And again, just some good pictures of it, very good description of it, and an annex fine details holder. And I said it's one of my favorites, but there's also a mysterious history with it. Sheldon, who created the variety attribution nomenclature for large cents, had actually seen this coin. And in a letter, he actually called it a 1795 S76A, which is the thicker letter edge variety, when this actually has no edge lettering and it actually weighs the reduced weight coin. So that was kind of a mystery of why he would have called it a different variety when he's the one that created the nomenclature. Go down a little bit further. And there's this letter talking about it. Unusual lot, double striking, 2 sets of flowing hair. Again, it's really a cool coin. And there it shows he called it a 76A, which was not correct. And then the third of my foundation coins is not a copper coin, it's a silver coin.
I like this piece.
Oh, I know. And Greg Bannock likes this piece. If anybody knows me, I have an affinity for beer. And so when I saw this, it's like, oh, this is just a gotta have. 1875 half dollar. And again, this one's countermarked. It actually, part of the counter stamp's off. It says drink Fine Spans Lager. And then I don't know what the X's are on the back of it, but again, it's just a really unusual piece. It's in pretty good grade and it's just very well done. And what's cool about pieces like this is, again, it just creates more research associated with it, going in and trying to find out who is Fine Spans, what was the deal here. Because a lot of times, a lot of these countermarks are just advertising pieces for whoever the business was. Go down a little bit farther.
So real quick, there's a couple questions in chat I'd like you to answer before you move on.
Absolutely.
Why did they put the 2 on the coin?
That I don't know. That is a mystery. There are coins that have various different numbers on them, and they talked about using those as counter coins. And quite honestly, I don't know. I mean, that was always going to be a mystery. Even Sheldon didn't have anything to say about it, or did McKinney. But every now and then you will see a piece like this that it'll have a 2, it'll have a 10, it'll have a 9. And really no one, I don't think, is 100% sure what the purpose was.
Luther says counting token?
Yes, that's what I have heard. You'd have to go back in and kind of research that.
Okay. The other one was, you were mentioning the people that had this. Was that his coin? McKinney's?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That was McKinney's coin, absolutely. And again, it had been documented for some time. It sold in 2 different auctions, and I just showed the heritage one and had the best description on it. I think it sold in the Stack's Bowers auction as well.
Very nice. Okay, I just wanted to address those because they were there.
Oh, absolutely, not a problem.
Yeah.
I tend to go a
Yeah.
little fast sometimes anyhow. So, all right, back to my beer half dollar. And obviously, that's a coin that I'm not going to part with. I did send it to NGC. NGC is really good about doing some of these countermarks and actually doing some of that research as well. And you go down a little bit further, I kind of put a collage together that shows that they were in Newark, New Jersey, and these are some of the documented countermarks associated with them. They had copper, silver, and then NGC actually went in, put it in a holder, and designated it as the type, the NGNE 15, and so that's the 1875-76 seeded Liberty half dollars that they put the countermarks on. So really cool piece and an NGC holder, with the right designations on it as far as the counter stamp. And then number 4, this one is an unusual piece. It's my 1787 New Jersey camel head. So when we talked about, Frosty, you talked a little bit about some of the competing mom and pop shops that made coins prior to the mint. And of course, we had a number of sanctioned coins that were made by various states. Many of those approved basically the minting of coins to their dimensions and their design by outside sources. And so there were a number of mints that were set up that made coins for Connecticut and Vermont and New Jersey and
Right. Yeah.
Massachusetts and the whole bit. So New Jersey was one of the best known of the coppers, and it was actually considered to be the most reliable as far as weight and value. And some of the others were considered to be lesser, and their weights would vary. So anything that was basically New Jersey was pretty much looked at without any issues. This particular coin was made at a mint that initially started making counterfeit lightweight British tokens. And again, back at the time, there wasn't a lot of money within the US. And so there were people that were flooding really the market, if you would, with whatever they could. And, they would make it out of good copper, but there would be so many different weights, it was really hard to say each one should trade at the same level. This mint and this particular coin is considered a counterfeit because the source was not sanctioned to make this variety. And what they did is they went out and pulled other coppers that weren't as highly valued and used those as the planchets for these. So in effect, they were making variable weight and even lesser weight examples of the highly regarded New Jersey copper. So kind of a clandestine thing. These are known, there's 3 different varieties, the same obverse die, 3 different reverse dies. And again, they're known to be just a fluctuation in weights. This particular one was Sid Martin. Sid Martin was just a giant in colonial coins. He wrote literally the book on just about everything. And it was one that came up for auction that I thought was going to go for a lot more than it did. And I was fortunate that I actually won this coin. We go a little bit further. So there's the PCGS TrueView image, and what you see on the reverse is not supposed to be there. You see the eye, and you see the rays all radiating through the shield, which is supposed to be there. So it really is an awesome example, and it's good enough that we were able to attribute it to actually a Vermont copper. And these were struck over many other copper coins, but Vermonts were relatively rare. So this is considered a relatively rare piece like this.
So just to touch on something really quick, that was actually fairly common practice, even with foreign coinage at the time, was to overstrike these, correct?
Correct. but done by some of the mints that were looked at with a lot of suspicion. So yes, there were a lot of coins that were used, and even the U.S. Mint on some of the half cents bought tokens and cut them down and used them, and those are pretty cool because there's a lot of those that show these tau tokens under type bleeding through the original design as well. So this was not uncommon. It was relatively uncommon on a Vermont copper. Get down a little bit further, and then again, just a nice picture and a good description of what it is, the attribution of the Maris type, and struck over 1785 Vermont. So again, one of my foundation pieces, and technically a counterfeit. So that makes like 2 counterfeits out of my group so far.
Surprised, actually.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's I'm going to end up about 50% when we're done here. So let's go a little further down.
So the jumper asks the question, why do coins have ridges? They're not like ruffles. No, I'm just kidding. And the humble stacker was correct to avoid something that was called clipping. This was actually Sir Isaac Newton was the one, if I remember correctly, in European history. If anybody catches me wrong, please tell me. Was actually trying to deal with ways to deal with anti-counterfeiting, and one of the ways they would do that is just to skim off the edge of the coin and make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually, the coin would no longer carry the weight to meet what that silver value was, and so they would melt it down. When people melted those coins down, they would take them and sell them to the foreign countries. Sound familiar? Yeah, well, we knew this because Sir Isaac Newton was in the middle of this. So they put not only ridges, but lettered edges came from that act of clipping. And this is one of the ways to help reduce that. It still happened. People did counterfeits. Counterfeits have been around as long as money. But Broke Stacker, thank you for putting that in there. But I wanted to address that question because, again, this is an education-based channel. So I appreciate the question.
All right, let's go down a little bit further. So number 5, my 1798 S176 large cent. This is the only one certified to be struck over a Druid Condor token. And again, we get into discussions about the mint, and some of the issues the early mint had was coming up with copper planchets. And they would buy planchets, they would get stuff, they were actually buying stuff from a mint in Great Britain, and there they were also making Condor tokens, which were basically copper pieces in England. And so the suspicion is some of those planches got mixed in with the planches coming for us to strike the U.S. large cents. So this one is unique. This one was originally from Tom Reynolds' collection. It was determined to be struck over something, but I was the one that actually went through and researched it and then verified that it was actually over a Druid halfpenny. So in this example, in this image here, you can actually see the 8 bleeding through on the left side of my coin. You can see part of the H is very prominent, and then kind of a compressed view of the E, but it was absolutely good enough to identify it and link it to that Druid halfpenny. Go down a little bit further. And then on the obverse, you can see some of the wreath type stuff that was actually on the reverse of the Druid penny. So again, it's rare to see these things bleed through, but every now and then one does. And this is the only one known that's actually struck over a Druid. I sent it back to PCGS after I had 2 Condor token experts agree that that's what it was. And PCGS then went through and they actually re-slabbed it and put the right designation on the label. Go down a little bit further.
So real quick, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Quality Collectibles site. They have tons of these. If you're interested in early coppers and stuff like that, before I share this with everybody, I want to share it with you and get your feedback on whether this is a decent site or not. I've never seen it before, but it came up in a search, and they have lots of trade and merchant tokens. So I'll have you go through it, verify it. If you tell me that it's a good site, then we will share it with a group because there's a lot of really neat pieces on here.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be
Okay.
cool. Gary Grohl is one of the experts, and Grohl actually has his own website, and that's what he deals in his tokens like that. So this,
Question. Hold on, real quick. Luther, wonder if counterstruck tokens were ever overstruck. Yeah, well, I mean, that's what he just talked about. The overstruck token. You mean was there one that was counterstruck and then overstruck on top of that? I don't know. Probably. I'm sure that there were things that were out there. Jack, do you have any idea?
yeah, I'm back. I was trying to understand his question as well. Um, that is the TrueView image that PCS did, and then on the right is the label coin now that shows it struck over an Ainsley token, and it was X Tom Reynolds, but at that time they just said it was an undetermined token. And then down a little bit further, my friend Dan Rice, who also has a little YouTube channel about early copper, did a really cool video on this. Get down a little bit.
I am trying to scroll down on the
You're
other
fine.
screen.
Again, this is just a really cool video that he did where he's actually showing my 1788 and then he's showing the Druid. And so he goes in and I sent him images and just like I said, did a really cool little YouTube video on this one.
So how in the world, from the little bit of whatever that you have on that coin, did you figure out was a druid?
Well, there actually is enough. And when I took it and showed it, I took it to, I think, one of the Chicago coin shows and walked into a group that knows tokens. And I had done some research, and the Druid had come up from a friend who actually had two for sale and asked me if I had any interest in them because they're very popular. The Druid token is very popular. It's just kind of an ominous looking coin, and they made them in various different dates. And I looked at it and I actually said, yeah, I bought the two. And just in comparing them, I said, well, that wreath stuff that I'm seeing on mine. And then I went back and I actually could see the 8 in the date. And then I just started playing with images and kind of overlaying them. And I said, this is a match. And that's really how I got through it. It was probably more of an accident than anything else, only because I was looking at druids, that a friend had for sale.
And
And
again, discovery, right? The
yeah,
origin of discovery, that is as much a cool story because I watched Chuck Daughtry do this one time. He was looking through coins and he was like, you know what? I think this, and he's like, well, hold on just a minute. I got some coins on my desk. And let me show you kind of why I think I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing. And he was going through some stuff and he pulled up this Colombian coin. And as he pulled up this Colombian coin, he went, oh, hold on, wait. And he disappeared for a minute, came back and he pulled his coin up and he was like, okay, quick, and then overlay and let's look at this. And that's the coin. And it was like, you got to witness this, right? And I always ask how people identify this stuff because that was one of those things. He just happened to see something and go, bink. Oh, Lord, that's it. That's what it is. So I thought it'd be interesting to determine how you figured that out because I'm always fascinated by how because you have to know coins to be able
you
to
do.
do that, you know?
You do, but sometimes it's just who you know. And the contacts that you make and people show you things and it's like, wow, that took
Yeah.
a turn when I saw the Druid. I'll tell a real quick story. Back when I was really into the deceptive counterfeits and I had a whole list of coins that I knew this nest of counterfeiters had made. I was looking for 1849 seeded dollars, and I found one that I was sure was counterfeit. And it was over Christmas time, and my son-in-law was here, and he was looking over my shoulder as I was on the computer screen, and I was explaining what I was trying to do and what the attribution marks were. And I said, let's just go into eBay and let's just kind of scroll through. And the very first one I clicked on absolutely matched the coin. And it was just one of those aha moments. He thought I was amazing. How did you find that quick? And it was like it just happened to be there when I did the search.
Well, but again, and we talk about some of the most important things that you can understand when it comes to collecting coin is when you look at a certain type of coin. Now, if I were to say, and I know you hate this word, so bear with me, but if I was to say that you're an expert in the 1804 or 1808 large cent, you know that design flawlessly. You know what should be there, you know what shouldn't be there, you know the various varieties. So the most important aspect of doing that is knowing that coin that you're looking at, knowing it forwards, knowing it backwards. Know the years that they changed some of the design elements. And what's really hard with the early American coinage, even ancient coinage, is that you can have 5, 6, 10, 20, 50, 40, 80, 100 varieties. So how do you keep those straight in your head?
Yeah, and that is a challenge, of course, but you keep good documentation.
Well,
And
but that's exactly what I was wanting for.
yeah, we say buy the book first.
Right.
You should see what my floor looks like in my study because I have everybody's book. And there are some very bright people that have done some very good books on attribution of early large cents. And I say that all the time, attribution, attribution, attribution. You need to be able to determine if a coin is a genuine variety, but you've got to have the documentation to do it. Now, I did
So,
collect up. Go ahead.
no, well, for those of you who are brand new to the channel, you're going to hear a lot of people say, buy slab because it's safer. Not a good thing to say. Always know the coin. And so I want to open this up to everybody here. Again, we're having Jack talk about this particular thing. But if you ever want to get something, you ever want to know more about something, ask the question. It's free. We'll do some research, we'll try to find you the information. But ask those questions. Google is nice. It's great to find stuff. The problem is that there's so much bad information out there. You need to make sure you generate some good, solid sources. I'm not that person, but there's a lot of people on my channel who might be. If they're not that person, they know the people. And what Jack has talked about is documenting, buying that book. Making sure you have trusted, reliable sources is crucial in making sure you identify the authenticity of these. Jack makes this sound easy, but it is a life's work. And so just because he's like going through stuff and talking about this stuff, it's like, well, of course he does that. He works in this. You're not a numismatist by trade. You're an engineer, right?
Correct. I'm an engineer by trade and training.
And so this is a passion. So again, it's knowing the people who really dig into this. The reason I want to clear about this is because people say, well, you have to work in a coin shop to know these. No, you don't. You just have to have a desire to learn. That's really all you need, and a little bit of time.
Or a lot of time sometimes.
Or a lot of time. Yeah. Yeah. In our case, it's a lot of time.
It
Sorry,
is.
I didn't mean to digress. So back to you, buddy.
Oh, you're fine. So this one is the one that drove me down the rabbit hole. This is a 1798 S158 large set. And I use this image a lot. On the left-hand side, the small on the top image is what a S158 should look like. The one below is what mine looks like. One of the first things you see is the Y is completely wrong. But you also see some other circulation marks, including the one that's marked 3, which is like a big crater in the bust. And so when we first saw the first one of these, it was actually in an NGC holder. And the problem we had was we couldn't attribute it. You go to the books, you went to all the die varieties, and this one didn't match anything. That Y was too long for 1798, great bust large cent. And then there were other things that were wrong about it. So this is the one that really got me started back in 2015, and then I branched off from that. But this one is actually in my collection. When we saw the first one and we all started asking what was it, I found a second one on eBay, and then we saw all the same matching circulation marks. We knew that we had an issue at that point. J.R. Grellman, Bob Grellman, he's an expert in large cents, early copper, and he does attributions for like $1. You send him the coin, he'll grade it and give you the attribution of it. And I thought it would be kind of cool to have him do this one because it was one of the first that we saw. So he clearly marked it as copy. Um, the die state, he said early or mid die state. The problem with the die state was there should have been a crack on the reverse that the counterfeiters actually took out of the die. And so this ended up being a die state for a coin that really didn't exist. I mean, it existed only as a counterfeit. Go down a little bit further.
And that was something you said the other day that I thought was extremely important. The die varieties on the family of counterfeits. It really is important to understand that there's families of counterfeits, right?
Correct.
And so understanding what's not only supposed to be on the coin, but what's not supposed to be on the coin, you really have to understand the family of the original and the counterfeit. So that was extremely important when you said that the other day. I wanted to make sure people understood that relevance.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you go down a little bit further on this one, you can see a little better image of it. This was actually in my case in Indianapolis when I did the Indy Coin Show. But that reverse actually should have a die break that runs from the T in United all the way through the wreath and ends up at the top of the S of states. And so there is a perfect die state where there's no crack. And then there is a die state where that crack basically goes all the way through and then it becomes bigger and bigger. And there's a final die state, which is terminal, where a big chunk basically fell out of the die. And so there's a big cut on the die as well. But this particular coin, it just had the start and stop. It doesn't have the rest of it. And
So Azure Blue asked you a really interesting question. Do you have a plan to leave these incredible counterfeits to a museum or someone to carry on your legacy?
and that is a great question because that is something that I have considered. It's a question my wife asked because my wife is concerned about what happens if I'm not here and my kids get these. I've got a large number of these that are actually in holders that say they're genuine. So it is something that I'm going to have to consider at some point in time. The TPGs would all buy the ones back that are in their holders, if that were a concern. But then, of course, they'd be lost. They would crack them out and they would do whatever they do with them. Um, so I have thought about possibly the ANA at some point in time. I'm just not at that point yet, but it is a good question. It is something that I'm definitely considering at this point.
Outstanding. Thanks
So
for the question, Azure.
yeah, it's a great question. We've documented 9 of this particular coin. I own 3. The one on the left, the AU details, that coin actually sold for $2,000 on eBay, and when we showed it was counterfeit, the seller bought it back and ended up gifting it to me for the displays. The one on the right is one of the only ICG counterfeits that we know of that was slapped by them as genuine. And that one was actually put in the dirt and basically corroded, but it still carries all the counterfeit die attribution marks. And then the one in the center is my raw one. It actually was in a PCGS folder. I sent it to PCGS to let them crack it out and give me some dimensional information off of it, and I've just kept it raw. So again, this was part of my display in Indy. That was fun. I mean, 2 days, and I know I talked about that last Sunday, but that was a great show and it was a great time because I had so much interest. And that is the basically the attribution points. So I show the counterfeit and genuine Y, how long the Y is. I showed the dimple on the bus, kind of a crater. And then I show where there should have been some die breaks that have just been eliminated in that die, and that's what made that unattributable, basically, coin. So once we couldn't attribute it, and then we found two or three more that had all the same marks, and we knew that we had a problem.
Very cool.
Go down a little bit further, and this is that same coin when it was originally in a PCGS holder. Of course, that cert no longer exists, and basically let them crack that one out. And then a little bit further.
So when you're doing your garbage dump diving on your favorite sites,
Yeah,
do
I call
you
it dumpster diving. It's a
the,
little different.
well, they're garbage sites, but you
Yeah,
know
they
what I
are.
mean. Um, do you have a list of these that you look at when you're looking at these to see if the numbers exist to help you do quick identifications of things that have been pulled off?
I do when there's one that I have, some interest in. You talked about people think as long as they're in a holder, they're good. And of course, we know that there's counterfeit holders now.
Right.
So there's a series of those that I've documented because I've gone back to PCGS and said, this is like the 100th one of these I've seen with the same cert number. And PCGS has, on a couple occasions, basically eliminated that cert. In two cases, they actually put a note that said the counterfeits are being reported to the cert and we deactivate it. And that's really helpful because when someone else is looking at it and they go in and they see there's an issue, that helps them realize that there may be a problem with that coin or at least with that slab and that cert number.
Well, you have somebody named AKA Data 47 that says, "Great show. Didn't get to say hi because he was there doing his video when he was at your booth, when they were at your booth.
Oh, that's
So,
cool. That's cool.
so they
Yeah,
were there.
I had people doing a lot of video stuff when I was there, so that was a lot of fun. All right, let's go down a little bit further, and that's actually the True View that PCGS did, and again, that cert doesn't exist anymore, but they did that. They did some dimensional things for me, and I let them take it out of that holder. I really wanted one that was raw so I could show the edge and show those things anyhow.
And you've done a lot of work with PCGS, NGC, CAC, ANAX, ICG. Those photos, do they utilize those for their resources? These coins that they get that you share with them. How does that work?
I don't know. I know that I've been involved in buybacks, several buybacks with PCGS, and they basically bought the coin back for the seller's invoice price, and then they now have it in their hands. And what they do with it from there, I don't know. I mean, one of the coins was a 1793 large cent that was very well done, that was counterfeit, and they bought it back. And then they took it out of the slab and they took some good images of it. And they had that available at the next EAC conference to show people why it was counterfeit and why they missed it, basically. And so that was interesting. But if they get them back, I think they all keep them basically for in-house education and also for their black boxes, that, a collection of bad coins, mostly for their graders and, that kind of information.
Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised they don't keep kind of like Jack Young Black Book of references.
Well, again, I don't know what they do. I mean, that's all proprietary on how they handle stuff like that. I will say that, this summer there were two 1806 half cents that went through two graders, two different TPGs that should have had the information that they were counterfeit, because we put that information out. We contacted them and they had coins in their slabs from back in 2017 that were counterfeit. Yet here we are in 2025 in the summer, and
Right.
both of them
Yeah.
passed those coins again. So I really don't know how they do it. Whether they're losing some of that information because the people that are cycling through it. It's just speculation on my part. All right, go down a little bit further. Where am I at here? Okay, so this is my 1794 Bible cent. And I did this one just so I could show both the obverse and the reverse. This is just one of the coolest coins, obviously, in my collection. Don't know when it was done with the patent and everything. It was done probably pretty quickly after it was made. I really don't know how long it circulated. It just no way to know. But this is a 1794 large cent. The obverse would place it as an S32 in that family. Um, Bible verses on it, and then you go to the reverse, and the same thing. Most of the details gone on the reverse, almost like they took it off. But again, I call it my Bible cent. It is just the coolest thing. It's so cool to see in hand too, because it's really a fascinating piece. So when I said I collect, you know, countermark coins, I also collect coins that have been struck over, or I collect some coins that just basically are modified like this. It's just a very cool piece.
That is neat.
And then the very last one is kind of easy to say which one that is. That's my 1796. That's the Bob Julian image. It's still in a PCGS slab as genuine. And we talk about this being the star of my exhibit, mostly because there's a star in front of Liberty's face. And obviously that should not be there. So this was the one coin, this was the aha moment for me where we proved that the counterfeits had bought lower grade large cents as planchet stock and struck this counterfeit over what was likely an 1843 called large cent. So when you see the star, you see 1 cent bleeding through. Um, just a fascinating piece, but you got to understand it's actually a counterfeit coin.
And it is the basis for something else, by the way.
Yes, it is the basis for something else, by the way. I don't think I have a picture of that in here, but I tend to use it. There it is, which is awesome. I've made that basically my image on Facebook, and I had a lot of positive comments about it. One, it was cool, and two, is very appropriate.
Well, yeah, you were really quick when I showed that one. You were like, "That's it. That's
That's
it.
it. We didn't need to go any further than that.
Yeah, you hit it. That's it." It was fun putting this together, and again, it's like, give me the one that really rings true, that rings the bell, it strikes the bell for you. And then, did you like the short that I created, by the way?
Oh, the short was great. You saw I posted it. I posted it in several places.
So the short, and I love that that song, "Hell's Coming with Me." Um, but I was listening to that. I was listening to the beginning of that, and I was like, "Oh, this made perfect counterfeit. This is perfect." The whole Jack Young, Jack Riley, and then I was talking with Jack Riley, and Jack's like, "Well, I don't have a logo," and I was like, "Oh, you know what we need to do? We need to do this." And then I ended up putting this together for. You've seen the one for Jack Riley, right?
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, he's posted it as well.
Yeah. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the one that I did for Jack Riley. So when we do our resources, now these guys that do all this work for us, that do all this amazing stuff for counterfeit detection, now they have something to represent who they are. So, we talked about Coin Week and doing stuff like this. You drop this logo, now people have that visualization of who that person is. And so it was my honor to be able to do those two. One, I love you guys, the work that you guys do and all the support that you guys give me as a channel. But I just have fun doing this stuff. So I appreciate you guys letting me do those for you.
Yeah, it's really cool. I write now a quarterly article for EAC's Pennywise, um, Jack Young's Authenticity Challenge Corner, and the one I just submitted to Harry will be in the January one is on the 1796 large cent, and at the very bottom I posted the image you did for me, so it'll actually be in Pennywise.
Well, and I've told you this, I'm actually designing a poker chip that has that logo on the back of it. So pretty soon you'll be able to give something away that has your own stuff on it.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
So, but this turned out really good. I am really, really, really happy with the way this turned out. Because I was like, okay, so what do I know about Jack? And I was like, I think I like this. And if you get in really close, you can see there's actually people back here. There's like a whole army of people back in the shadows. You have to zoom in really close to the image to be able to see it. But
It's pretty ominous. I really like it.
so, but fun stuff. So again, just a little bit of my thanks to you for all of your work, because you've done some amazing stuff to help people identify coins on a one-on-one basis, but just in the hobby in general. And so it's my honor to be able to have done something nice for you. I appreciate that. Well, do we have anything else that we wanted to discuss? I
know I'm good.
Jack Riley's, they're talking about stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of great conversation. Are there any conversations for me or Jack? Unfortunately, Eric was having issues with his internet. So hopefully they get that fixed and is back. And folks, Paula was in the stream. I don't know if she's still here. Please offer a prayer for her. She just had a procedure. So pray that she gets feeling better. I know that she appreciates that. But do me a favor. You can come here and say hi, but send her a message. Go say hi. Let her know that you appreciate her, love her. You'll be amazed at how much impact a little bit of kindness and a little bit of how you doing and praying for you and thinking about you do for you. So fingers crossed, but I won't be in the chat if that's the case. I'm not sure what that means. I have a show next Saturday. Oh, gotcha. Well, hopefully that works out good. Abram, thank you for the information. Oh, absolutely. Jack, thank you so much for being here. Eric, and I know that you had to bail because of internet issues, but thank you for being here and talking about your story and talking about the stuff with the Philadelphia Mint. Next week, I think we're doing New Orleans. New Orleans is a fabulous mint. I may delay New Orleans. I may go Carson City and then New Orleans because I want Jack Riley available on that Sunday because I want to talk about some of these micro O's and the Morgans that he's done. A lot of great information, a lot of great articles on that. So I will coordinate with these folks and then I will let you know. So watch on my community post. I will post information, so make sure you guys are watching that. The last thing I'm going to ask for you guys to do is to share the stream out. Share this with your friends. If you guys enjoy the conversation and the people that are here, share it out, right? Let's grow this channel. Oop. Jack dropped. Hold on. Got to bring Jack back. Okay, he's back. You have internet issues too?
Yeah, I'm back. All of a sudden you sounded like a robot and then everything went went dark.
Oh, yeah, because you were fine on my end. Did anybody else hear me roboting?
No, it was my end.
Oh, it was your, okay. Well, that's weird. It makes me wonder. And the reason I ask is because Eric had the issue, then you had the issue. It's like, is it me?
Yeah, it just happened. I mean, it just was very sudden and it told me it was trying to reconnect. So I just went in and manually did that. And so now I'm back. I missed a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So I just, again, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Next week, we'll probably talk Carson City, and then the following week, because I want Jack Riley to be here when we talk New Orleans.
That'd be great.
Because I want him to go over his micro O and all that stuff.
Right.
So I will coordinate with everybody. I'll post in the community. So make sure you're monitoring the community chat. But I just appreciate everybody's time, and thank you so much for being here. And for those of you who subscribed, I definitely appreciate your support. So, all right, folks. Well, hey, take care of yourselves. Be well, be blessed. And as always, I will see you guys in the stream.